Alright, how's it going everybody? My name is StevieWunderKid, and today we're going to be recreating Herbie the Love Bug using the brand new BF Weevil that was just added as part of the REPLICA heist update in GTA 5 Online. And I'm going to be making and posting this video a bit early because I've actually already unlocked the BF Weevil for free by doing the English Dave kind of music missions. Now, if you guys don't know already, you can actually unlock the Weevil early and for free, and also unlock its trade price if you complete the scope out mission for the REPLICA heist as a leader. So that means that you're actually gonna have to have the Kosaka submarine, but once you've completed the scope out mission as a leader for the REPLICA heist, you'll be eligible to get the 3 kind of music missions from English Dave. Now the missions themselves are very quick and easy, but there's about an 8-hour cooldown between each one. However, once you complete all 3 of them, Dave will actually give you the Weevil for free, which I think means that it's pretty well worth it. They're very quick and easy missions, so you better hop on it while you can. I don't know how long it's gonna last for being free. This might be a one-time thing for this event week, I'm not quite sure, but I would hop on this as soon as possible if you have the submarine. But anyways, we've got the Weevil here, and today I'm going to be going over all of the modifications in Los Santos Customs that I chose to recreate Herbie from the original 1968 Love Bug film as accurately as possible, based on, of course, how the Volkswagen Beetle in that film was modified for racing. So let's get started. Alright guys, so now that we're in Los Santos Customs, let's get right into all of the aesthetic modifications. So starting off with the bumpers, for the front bumper we just leave it stock. There's no other style of chrome bumper, at least that's available for the BF Weevil, to get any closer to the chrome bumper that was on Herbie in the film. So in this case we just leave this stock. The same thing goes for the rear bumper, we also leave the rear bumper stock. There's no other style here for the bumpers that we have for the BF Weevil that gets you any closer to the OEM chrome bumper present on Herbie in the film, so we again just leave it stock. As kind of a preface as well, a majority of the body on Herbie is pretty much stock. However, there are a couple small details that I'll go over now. So moving into the exhaust, we chose to go with the chrome exhaust. That's probably the most accurate match you're going to get because obviously the chrome matches up with all of the other chrome accents of the car. The stock exhaust has sort of this rusty texture on it, and the only other option I could see people using is the big bore exhaust. However, I think the tips are a little bit too big, so based on the images that I've seen of Herbie in the film, I went with the chrome exhausts. Moving on to the fenders, because again the majority of the body on Herbie is stock, we kept both the stock front fenders and the stock rear fenders. We're not going to change them up at all. Moving on to the hood, again we leave the hood entirely stock, there's no change there. Same thing with the hood accessories, there are no hood accessories. So now we have the livery, which is the most iconic aspect of the build, and of course we go with the BF Cup car. This is by far the best match you're going to get for the livery. The only other option is the Forgotten Racer, however it does have this rusty look to it, which unfortunately you can't change. There's no clean version of this with the numbers, and it sucks because 35 is obviously a reference to 53 on Herbie, and there's no other option to have this livery in a clean version still with the numbers. The BF Cup car has no numbers, but it's probably as close as we're going to be able to get with the stripe, so that's why we chose the BF Cup car livery. We kind of got to bite the bullet with this one, but it's the best that we can do. Moving on to the plate, we went with the yellow on black plate, and I'll put a picture of the number up on the screen. The number is OFP857, and the style of the black and yellow plate that we have in GTA is actually very similar to the style of a plate on Herbie in the film, which is why these match up pretty well. I didn't want to spend the extra money to do the custom plate number, but if you guys want to do that, the number is on the screen. Alright guys, next up we have the respray. Now for the respray, I went with a primary color of a classic ice white, and the same thing for the secondary. I also chose to go for a secondary ice white. I'll talk about a slightly different color choice that you can make towards the end of the video, but this is what I chose for now because I wanted to have the car in more of its race spec with the steel wheels that I'll also talk about in a little bit. But for this, again, primary and secondary color and classic ice white, and then for the trim color, I chose the bluish silver. So if you guys actually look at some pictures of Herbie's interior, the car actually has this sort of lightish gray on pretty much everything, and unfortunately the primary color is tied to the color of the dash and the pillars, the steering wheel, and some portions of the seats as well. And unfortunately you actually can't change that independently of the primary color, so to get it as close as possible to the interior in Herbie, I went with the bluish silver. Again, it's not perfect, but it's as close as we can get to the gray interior that was on the car in real life. Next up, we have the roll cage, and Herbie actually did have a roll cage. It's hard to see in some pictures of the car in the film, but if you look very closely, the car does have this kind of rear cage right behind the front seats, and as you guys can see, we chose the half cage to match that up. Now, unfortunately, you can't actually color the half cage to match the trim color that we chose beforehand, but I still think having the half cage is going to be the most accurate match for the roll cage. It's going to match up with obviously what was in Herbie in the film. Moving on to the roof, we leave the roof stock. And as for the skirts, we actually went with the chrome running boards for the skirts. The stock skirts, there's no running boards at all, and as you guys can see in pictures of the car, it does have running boards, and they are very light chrome, and the best match in our case is to do the chrome running boards in this case. It's very hard to see because of the lighting in Los Santos Customs, but the chrome running boards is your best match if you want to get as close as possible to Herbie as it appeared in the film. Moving on to the spoiler, we don't do any spoiler upgrades at all. Herbie didn't have a spoiler in the film, so in this case also we just don't run a spoiler. As for the suspension as well, I feel like any lowering will just look a little bit off. The car in the film was very, very high off the ground, so that's why I just kept the stock ride height. And then moving on to the wheels. Now, I talked about this a little bit beforehand when I made the color choice that I did for the primary and the secondary. I chose the classic ice white, and the reason is because of the wheels that I chose. So in my case, because I wanted to leave the car in more of its kind of race trim, for the wheel type I went for the street wheels, and I chose the retro steely wheels. Now, I also painted these wheels frost white, and that's what I chose at least for this color combination, but there's another color combination that I'll talk about at the end of the video that you could also go for if you want. But in my case, again, I went with the classic ice white for the primary and the secondary color, and then went for the retro steely street wheels painted in frost white, at least to create that sort of race spec look that you could see Herbie in a pretty good portion of the film. And obviously for the tires, the tire design, there are occasionally some tire letters, at least in some pictures that I saw of Herbie in the film. However, in GTA, the tire letters are huge, so I just left the tires stock. And then of course there's no tire spoke, there's no tire enhancements or anything like that, and of course we don't tint the windows either. Herbie in the film didn't have any window tints, so we just leave the window tints stock. Alright guys, so before I ended off the video, I wanted to briefly go over another color alternative that you guys have when you go to respray your BF Weevil for this replica build. So this involves going into the primary color, going into the classic as we did before, and selecting the cream color. Now the reason why I say this is because there's actually a ton of builds out there, Herbie replica builds, and also pictures of Herbie in the movie where it looks to have more of this sort of cream pearl color. So that's why I think you could also go with the cream primary and secondary color if you'd like to. As I said before, I chose ice white for my build, and the main reason for this is because of the fact that the primary color, as you guys can see here, will actually color the interior, as I mentioned beforehand, with the trim color. And if you choose the cream, I don't think it particularly blends well with the gray interior that we chose beforehand, so that's one of the reasons why I didn't choose it. In addition, I just think it's a little bit too cream. I think the actual color that was on Herbie is a pearl that's right in between the cream and the ice white color. However, for the sake of my build, and also because of the wheels that I chose, you actually don't have the option to paint the wheels in more of like that cream pearl color. You only have the option to paint them in the white shade that I did, so that's why I thought that the ice white for the body would match better with the wheels. However, the other option, as I said, is to do the classic cream color for both the primary and the secondary colors. Now with that in mind, I also want to briefly mention that the secondary color will also control the color of the stock wheels. So for the sake of just showing you guys this really quickly, if I paint the secondary color here a classic cream, which is again the other alternative that you guys have for your color, and if I go back down and I change the wheels back to stock, as you guys can see here, the outer edge of the rim will actually match up perfectly with the body color. Whichever color you choose for the primary or the secondary, if you keep the wheels stock, they will actually match up perfectly with the color of the body, if that's another route that you guys want to take for maybe when Herbie was not in its race trim. As I said before, I chose to go with more of that race look, which is why I went for the steelies and I painted them white. But if you want to keep the wheels stock, they will be the same color as the secondary color, whichever one you choose. But yeah guys, that was my recreation of Herbie from the original Love Bug movie. If you guys went on to enjoy the video, feel free to drop a like down below. Leave a comment with your opinion and or any suggestions you'd like to make for future replica builds you'd like to see on the channel. But with that being said guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this was an accurate replica for you all and hopefully helps you out a bit. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great holiday, and I will see you guys in the next video.